Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, DevOps engineer Justin Dennison, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette. I'm your host Peter Van Rysdam, joined by Don, Justin, and Daniel, and I'm just introing them briefly today because we have so much to get to on this packed show. We actually mentioned last week there was a hurricane running up the East Coast, and it actually delayed our guests from last week, so we have not one but two guests on this week's show. We're going to be talking with John Prisco from Quantum Xchange in a little bit, but first we are joined by Sam Rubin, who's the Vice President of the Crypsis Group. Sam, how you doing?
Hey, good to be here.
Good to have you. And so, you're joining us all the way from Los Angeles, and it looks lovely there, and it looks like you're actually in a real office, which is something I think a lot of people are probably jealous of.
Real office, believe it or not a virtual background here.
It actually looks like what a virtual background could look like, though. Very nice modern office space there. But Sam, let's just jump right in and do our first segment here and get to know you a little bit more with rapid fire questions.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right, Sam, so we have a 5-minute segment, 1 minute, 45 seconds to answer the questions. We're going to go round robin. If you go over time, Peter's going to buzz you, and we're going to move on. Peter's going to take our first question.
All right, so Sam, start with a little softball for you. So what is the Crypsis Group exactly? What do you guys do out there?
Sure. So we're a cybersecurity consulting firm, and we're about 150 people. And what we really do is specialize in data breach incident response. We help companies respond to severe cyber incidents. And so we've got a team of folks every day helping companies respond from matters ranging from insider threats all the way up to nation state threat actors, hacking organizations. So that's what we're doing, and then we also help them, secure their perimeter and their organization so things like that don't happen again.
So I did a little bit of internet snooping, and I found out that you used to be an intern in the Senate. And how do you go from the Senate to digital forensics expert? How does that work?
So you definitely went way back in the archive there. Back in, I think, 2002 or 3, my first job out of college was in the U.S. Senate. And, at the time I was kind of looking to move up and move on in my career, very early days. And I had the good fortune of working with an attorney who then went on to open the Washington, D.C. Office of a cybersecurity company called Strauss Friedberg. And so that's really where I got my start back in 2003, kind of learning the ropes and dove into digital forensics there with Strauss Friedberg, helping companies investigate cybercrime.
I honestly, if you're going to learn about where to hide and conceal data, where better to learn it than the U.S. government? So
that's right.
I know that at Crypsis, you guys get classified as an MSSP, a managed security solution provider. And so you help people with a wide range of services, but I'm always curious, in your opinion, when you go out to an organization and start to work to provide those services, what is like the one most critical thing, the one thing that every company should have, that you look for first when you go to help somebody out?
Yeah, so I think the foundational thing that we're seeing with a lot of organizations is they just don't have a robust security operations function, right? Like, we're normally introduced to many of our clients through incident response. And what we find is, they either don't have the tools, like they don't have endpoint detection response, or they don't have logging, or they don't have SIMs, or even where they do, they're kind of poorly managed, mismanaged, or just it was kind of a set and forget type thing. And so what we found is that, companies need that security operations function. They need continuous monitoring. And then in terms of what is kind of the best return on investment or highest priority, I would lean towards the endpoint. And so we do a lot of focus on endpoint monitoring, endpoint detection and response. It's really the area we consider and look at the most when we're doing incident response. And it's a great point to manage from a threat detection standpoint as well.
Now, Sam, I saw that it was an article I was seeing that was about you discussing the rise of phishing attacks during the pandemic. Other than phishing, what else have you seen go on a rise, or what do you predict is going to be something we actually need to be looking out for because of this pandemic?
Yeah, I think that COVID has really been an accelerator for a lot of trends that were, already here, already with us. So obviously remote work, but also things like migration to the cloud, right? Like people are using this because they need their employees to work remotely. Maybe they're moving more quickly with migrating to the cloud, whether it's SaaS applications or AWS or Azure or Google Cloud. And unfortunately, even though these platforms are very convenient, sometimes the functionality is running ahead of the security, right? So everything from configuration to just the monitoring, as I mentioned, is not keeping pace. And so that's one of the things that we're seeing is cloud migration, but with security kind of lagging behind.
Now, speaking of fads, I know you also wrote a little article about TikTok, and so this is just more of a personal question. I just want to know your prediction. Do you think I will still be having to do TikTok dances with my daughter in 2 months, or do you think it's not going to get sold off?
So I think you will, and I think you secretly enjoy it. And you maybe pretend otherwise, but no. But seriously, I think TikTok will be with us. I would not be surprised if there's like a last minute, white knight that rides in to make the operations, U.S. based. And even if not, in this day and age, it's really hard to stop, users from doing what they want. So I think you would see people kind of circumventing some of the controls that the U.S. government might put in or could hypothetically put in to try and make it harder.
Yeah, if my daughter asked me how to install a VPN on her phone, I'm not doing it.
Do you think the administration might back down, or because I'm always curious about this? Like, here's this one company being singled out for being Chinese owned, but there are hundreds, thousands of other products that are like that. So are we going to move to a future where we can't use software with any Chinese ties?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty bold step. I'm certainly not a policy expert, but they are kind of drawing a line in the sand. Doesn't what the Trump administration does is, I think, on any topic, anybody's guess, right? So
what's on the dartboard on the wall that he's throwing it? We don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I think you mentioned in your article too. It was it Reddit that also had taken money from the same investment company that owns TikTok, or was? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, look, like in a global economy, I don't care if you're talking about, Reddit, TikTok, Microsoft. I mean, companies have international operations, and they operate in the U.S., they operate in China, and that's just the reality of doing business. So I don't know if it's how fair it necessarily is to kind of, put all the blame on TikTok and their parent company, ByteDance, I believe it is, when, this is just the way organizations operate in today's world.
Yeah.
Who bought Vine? Was that Twitter?
Twitter, yeah, Twitter.
Yeah,
bought
does
it
that? So if TikTok goes away, is that Twitter's they're like, oh man, here we go, we're gonna bring Vine back?
Well, Vine's already dead, right? If it was that easy to kill off, I can't imagine it'll come back.
They'd have to resuscitate it, and it'd be
effectively the
whole
same
thing.
service.
We got to get Barry and Trump. Yeah, go ahead.
Instagram has already. I think they're really trying to release their, TikTok killer app as well. So, there's a lot of people making moves in that area.
Yeah, the millennials, they don't like Zuckerberg so much. I don't know. We'll see. We will see. But thank you for your prediction. We'll circle back and either applaud you or make fun of it in a couple of months. But let's go ahead and get to the news. We have a lot of news to get to, and Sam, we want to keep you around for it because it is really security focused this week, so you can really help us out here. So our first article is from zdnet.com. A hacker leaks passwords for 900 plus enterprise VPN servers, and this list has been shared now, it says, to a Russian-speaking hacker forum frequented by multiple ransomware gangs. So even more reason that I'm not going to put a VPN on my daughter's phone then, I guess.
Yeah, now there are some limits on this, so we don't want everyone to panic. First off, they are entirely made up of Pulse Connect Secure VPN locations. So if you're an enterprise and you are using Pulse VPN, that's the one common element that everybody on the list had. There was a well-documented exploit available on those VPN concentrators that was really released last year in 2019. So you should have patched for. But it turns out plenty of people hadn't patched for it, and the attackers were able to use that to pull basically everything out of the firewall: a full username and password list, passwords in plain text, configuration files, all sorts of other resources to completely open up the firewall. Now, attacking the firewall is not that big of a deal. Once somebody gets into the firewall, though, they can then target the internal machines, and that's where the ransomware gangs come in. So this is basically 900 plus enterprises, because small businesses aren't buying these things. So 900 plus enterprises that are now just waiting for a ransomware attack to happen. So if you run Pulse Secure VPN, this is a big deal.
Whoa. Are you telling me someone didn't run updates and patch?
It happens.
That is absolutely crazy. It's like there's a whole enterprise of Peters.
I don't believe you.
Do you want to update now?
At Crypsis, one of the most common, IR types we do is ransomware, and the most common vector there, phishing and is probably number one, but number two is insecure remote access. And so this type of thing, yes, absolutely is going to lead to ransomware attacks, unfortunately. The scary ones, the ones that we see that really kind of make ripple effects, are those that essentially target MSPs, right? So if one of these guys is using one of these concentrators, it's not only they that are impacted, but all their downstream clients. So just something to look out for.
This is why I keep my telnet without a password as up to date as possible.
Sam, what do you guys do to protect against something like that? I mean, is everything segmented then at your company?
Yeah, so as an MSSP, we are really leveraging a lot of cloud tech. So, tools like Carbon Black, like some of the other cloud stack that, we don't even necessarily need to have remote access, as opposed to, interfacing through APIs that put a good layer in between.
I want to know how I get in one of these ransomware gangs. Do they?
It's blood in, blood out.
Do they jump you in like?
Yeah, you gotta kill a Microsoft machine.
Yeah. I mean, parents are sending their kids to Ivy League schools to get computer science degrees, and they're still joining gangs.
Yeah.
You'll be glad to know, Peter. I'm working on. I got Don's old Foscam. I'm gonna hack it, and we'll fiddle around with that.
So I know you've been
begging
my
for
Foscam is
that.
unplugged right now, and it's in a drawer. But you let me know when to turn it back on, and I will set it up, and I want to see you get into there.
That way you can watch me make brownies.
I want to do a live hacking demonstration of my home.
And here's Peter
Daniel.
in some underwear.
And I'm just throwing the router out the window after that and just calling it a day. All right, let's jump over to our next article, which is over at securityboulevard.com. Chrome Web Store fail. 300 plus more scam browser extensions. And so, Don, is this actually in the official Google Play Store and not one of the jailbroken kind of stores that you can get third-party apps in?
This is in the actual Chrome extension store, the Chrome Web Store. Yeah, one of the promises that we have when we use an app store, like the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, which would be for the Android phones, or in this case, the Chrome Web Store, which is just designed for your desktop browser, is that Google and Apple are actually doing a review of all the different applications that are uploaded and keeping you safe, scanning for malware, removing keyloggers, things like that. And they do. They do that to an extent, but they're not perfect. And today we get a glance of how not perfect they are. In this scenario, over 300 scam browser extensions were removed from the Chrome Web Store, the official Google Chrome Web Store. That means they all passed the very minor amount of review. I mean, it's the same effect as running them through VirusTotal, and that's about it. So in this case, these were various extensions that would monitor keylogging, send information about your websites that you visited to other servers in other countries. Just every kind of. I think a lot of these were focused on crypto mining, cryptocurrency, and seizing Bitcoin wallets. Just a lot of crazy stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And it shows that we really can't put our trust in a single provider. Like, we can't just say, well, Google's going to protect me. Because in this case, I think we see that they're just not able to keep up with that.
This is one of those things, because they used to have, like the web store used to have extensions, applications, and then like another category. They got rid of applications, which essentially opened up another browser. They were like, I don't know, it's getting weird. But I can't tell you how many times like I've had students who are like, my web app that I'm building is doing something weird. And I go, open the console. And I just see all these like, and then I start looking at the source, and the source is changing. And I go, oh, this extension is injecting JavaScript code on this page. And you can actually just watch it like update. And I was like, nah, I don't. So I think the only extension I use is LastPass. And then who knows? Maybe that's not even the best. But
do you think this is at all COVID related? Like they have just a backlog of, no, I mean, seriously, I mean, people are normally checking these extensions and they've just got a backlog and are trying to just rush them through?
No, so the extension, like when you build an extension, you have a fair amount of power from the extension part, and there's not, from what I've seen, not like super strict guidelines about what's going on and what kind of review goes through.
I did find it interesting that one of the people that they were quoting in the article was saying, I used to look at how many people were using the extension as basically a litmus test on whether or not it's legit. He goes, then I remembered people are dumb. So I figured I can't really learn anything good from that, so I'm going to try something else.
Yeah. Now, I think Salmon mentioned a minute ago that like endpoint security is what helps protect us more from this, where you have people who are genuinely concerned about security versus like Google, where they're more concerned about ad revenue and telemetry and all the other things they collect. So, Sam, in this case, like, do you guys? You mentioned Carbon Black, I guess, right? Is that the endpoint security you recommend, or do you guys work with different vendors?
Yeah, we relatively tool agnostic. We do, if we come to a client and they don't have anything in place, right now we're bringing in Carbon Black as our preferred. But if they've got a different tool already in place, we can integrate with that as well. But yeah, to your point about the risk of these browser extensions, one thing is about how you control workstations in the enterprise, at least. That's not going to help people at home. But I'm sure, as you guys have discussed many times, like how many permissions and how lax do you want to be on allowing your user base to just grab different things out there and update their operating system and their browsers.
This is why I still run Internet Explorer 8, because you can't have Chrome extensions in IE8.
That's a great plan.
Just FYI, I feel compelled to say this. All the stuff that I'm saying on this podcast, just don't do this. Like I feel like someone's like, Justin said run IE8.
Well,
you can't have a problem if you run IE8.
I feel like developers, will work on something and it doesn't work in IE8. Do you think hackers are the same way, where they're like, well, I made this code, but I just cannot get it to work in IE8.
What's really odd is like IE8 ended up being like a potential vector, because they had all these like specialized applications that you had to write for IE8, and they were in large enterprises, i.e. like our local school system, up until recently. And people would be like, oh, I just clicked on it. Wow, my stuff is taken over. That is not good. There's your problem.
I broke the network.
We actually see user agent strings for older browsers oftentimes as a telltale indicator of threat actor activity, attacking web apps, because, they'll build a lot of their automation on, with some of these older browsers.
Well, there you go. So not protecting yourself that way, Justin. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I'm not automating anything. I'm using IE8 or Netscape Navigator.
Right. Netscape Navigator. I'm sorry. I haven't heard that name in years.
Yeah. Since this morning when he turned his computer on.
If I'm really paranoid, it's IE6, baby.
Sure, I can't see any of the websites I'm going to.
And
also.
JavaScript doesn't work. And also, what is it? Oh, I still got hacked. That's weird.
Fires up like Mosaic and only gets the HTML1 support.
That's why
I use that Lynx browser.
Yeah,
man.
the links.
If it doesn't run Flash,
well.
I don't want to see it. All right, let's head over now to tomshardware.com for a big one. Massive 20 gigabyte Intel IP data breach floods the internet, mentions backdoors, and update Intel responds. An anonymous hacker also promises more to come soon. Don, do you know what Intel's response was to this?
So basically, the hacker is claiming that they compromised Intel's network And while they were in there, they managed to secure 20 gigabytes of confidential intellectual property from Intel. Information on the processors, on the management engine, the SDKs, just tons and tons of information about how the Intel systems work, which is gold if you are a hacker, if you're a black hat hacker, somebody who is trying to take advantage of this, compromise as many systems as possible. This is the type of documentation where you learn about the inner working of the processors.
Which could lead to like the Spectre meltdown kind of stuff, right?
Right.
Okay.
So what Intel did is they came out with an official statement that's fairly vague, where they're basically saying that, yeah, that's legit information that's there, but the hacker didn't compromise our network. So they're saying, nope, nobody broke into our network, but yeah, that's our data. So the thing that gets them, they get a get out of jail free card on this thing, because Intel has a number of companies they have partnerships with, and those companies, through a non-disclosure agreement and licensing agreements and things like that, get access to all of this information from Intel. And so then if one of them were to get hacked, the hacker would have access to that data, and they could say they breached Intel without actually doing it. I think it's pretty unlikely that Intel was hacked, because they bought McAfee antivirus, and I think we all know that that's the top level security.
Until you brought up the other companies, for some reason the only thing that was sticking my yes, those are my underwear, but no one broke into my house. I promise.
That reminds me, I grew up in St. Augustine, Florida, and we had the alligator farm about a mile from my parents' house. And there were times when alligators would escape. And then people would call, and they'd be like, "No, it's not our alligator." They're like, "Well, this is a pygmy Taiwanese, alligator." Is that,
and he's drinking all my beer.
Yeah, is that yours? No.
But
We
he
had
likes
one.
to
Though. We don't
party.
have that one anymore.
So every time I see something about Backdoors, for some reason, Gordon Lightfoot. Y'all know who Gordon Lightfoot is?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
wreck of the
sundown.
Edmund Fitzgerald. Oh,
if,
yeah.
if you've been, creeping around my back stair, I don't know why that is. I'm like, yeah. Gordon Lightfoot is putting out press releases left and right.
Someone's been creeping around Intel's backstairs.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Getting there.
So you're not buying it.
So anyhow, the data is legitimate. And what this means is that a lot of the stuff that the management engine does, this hardware that is built into the CPU that you can't touch, you're not even supposed to see, attackers are going to learn a lot more about how it functions. Now, does that mean a bad thing? Well, we'll have to see. Even Spectre and Meltdown, you couldn't just remotely apply those. You had to have some other vector that got you into a network, got you onto a machine before you could take advantage of them. So I'm not, this isn't the sky is falling level, but it's just something to be aware of, that we're probably going to have more sophisticated attacks by this time next year.
So I read this article. I actually found this article pretty interesting, and the article was saying that the hacker was basically pointing out, hey, search through this code that we have here, and you'll see references to backdoors. Here is a example of that, and would post an example. Plus, they said that the zip files, if you find this out in the wild, those zip files, to get into them, the password is Intel123. By the way, I didn't set that. That's how it was when I found it.
Well, in their defense, sometimes the I in Intel was capitalized.
That's true.
So-
It was.
That's super secure.
At 7 letters. No one will ever guess
Nah.
that. 7 characters.
I mean, it took me a good 2 minutes to get through that.
So with all this intellectual property released, some behind the scenes, do you think someone could maybe leverage this for a job after all the restructuring from the 7 nanometer debacle? Like, it'd be like,
Maybe.
I've been looking at your IP that I illegally acquired, and I found that all of y'all are wrong.
I'm going to come in and be like, I got an idea, guys. 4 nanometers.
Revolutionary.
I know the 5 wasn't working.
Yeah.
What if we went down to 4?
I just kept thinking of There's Something About Mary when he picked up the hitchhiker and he's like, I've got 6-minute abs.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I think we've beaten this story today.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
So let's head over back to ZDNet actually for our next article. Hackers are defacing Reddit with pro-Trump messages. A massive hack hits Reddit. And so there are just a laundry list here of subreddits that basically they've gone in and, each subreddit has its own little look with banners and things like that. And they have gone in and it's all MAGA all the time in there. So, Don, did you come across this
I learn a little bit from every article that I read, and in this one, I didn't learn so much about the attack, because the attack was pretty straightforward, right? There were a lot of moderators in these subreddits that were using no multi-factor authentication, so they just had username and password, and they were doing password reuse, so passwords that were used on other sites that got hacked. So the attack is not very sophisticated.
And a lot of mods moderate a lot of subs, so if you get into one mod's account, you might have.
And I guess that kind of leads you to the most sophisticated part of this attack, is that they did it all simultaneously. So they modified all these different subreddits. So what I really learned, though, was that not only did people like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer show, but they actually have a subreddit for that and its spin-off Angel, which I was surprised even existed in the first place. The show, better yet, the subreddit. So they hit a ton of subreddits, including r/lockpicking, r/beer, very important one. Some strange ones like r/Japan. So not quite sure why you'd want Japanese.
A lot of
people to vote for
expats.
Trump.
A lot of expats living there.
Yeah.
Military bases.
But it does show you that Reddit is consistently in the top 5 of internet sites visited in the world. So it is one of the highest profile websites, and this was a low sophistication attack, and it was really just a prank here at this point. But think about the malicious things they could have done through the use of JavaScript and CSS and things like that, that you could potentially put a payload into a subreddit's homepage and really cause some damage. So hopefully this is an eye-opener to moderators to, use multi-factor authentication.
Was it so much defacing as maybe it was a marketing campaign? Was it part of the campaign?
Oh, yeah. You got to give equal time, though.
Yeah. Oh.
So we'll see the other side.
Yeah, I would feel really weird if next week people were defacing Reddit with Joe Biden stuff.
Yeah, so sometimes attacks like this are, and I don't know if it's tied to any political campaigns, but in advertising, in the shadier parts of advertising, is tied to, affiliate marketing traffic, where, if they have access to sites and they can do something like this, they could end up, getting more clicks and links to try and generate ad revenue in a kind of unscrupulous way. I wonder if some of that's tied to this.
Yeah, I don't know if stuff was actually clickable or.
Come on, marketer, tell us.
Yeah.
Or even impressions, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
If that's that's the model.
Peter actually performed this hack.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones that were hit: RuPaul's Drag Race, Great British Bake Off. Looks like they hit a number of TV shows.
Man, my wife loves that show.
Yeah.
Well, again, I think that's probably the same moderator moderates a lot of those same channels. I'm assuming.
Certainly possible.
I'm not
Japan, Drag Race, and British Bake Off.
The great,
it's all the same guy.
Japanese drag off.
What amazes me is not only did they get r/no, but they also got r/no, yes.
Yeah, you got to fair and balanced, right?
Yeah.
So they got both of them.
What the hell are those about?
That's where it's like you're watching a GIF and like everything's going bad, and then all of a sudden it turns good. At the
Okay,
end.
so
But
Peter
then
subscribed to this subreddit. Okay, gotcha.
Oh yeah, I'm on no, yes, I think.
They also got Pokemon Go Battle League got hit. This sounds like a neat one. r/shit Americans say.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a fun subreddit.
That's really just this podcast. Isn't it?
Although things Americans say, make America great again. See, maybe they just blend in and they didn't even notice.
Well, the other one was r/leaves, the Toronto Maple Leafs page. Again, they're not eligible to vote here.
Well, there is massive email or mail-in voter fraud, right? So maybe that's it.
True. Yeah,
What was
it
it
comes
like?
back with a Canadian postmark.
Was it one out of 5 or something like that? Was disregarded or something?
Yeah, who knows?
Well, it's off. We're not getting into politics on this show.
Oh,
but-
you dared us. Let's do it. Peter's throwing the gauntlet down.
Yeah.
Let's
He's like,
start a
I
fight.
already magged up all of Reddit. Might as well do something else.
I think I can refocus you with this next article from Ars Technica.
Yeah, this is a good
right?
one.
Is that the headline we want to go with, Don? The Ars Technica headline?
Sure.
We'll start there. We'll start there.
More risque headlines.
Yeah. Zoombomber crashes court hearing on Twitter hack with Pornhub video. Judge in Twitter hack case didn't set password and had to shut down the Zoom hearing. And I don't say this often, but I feel like I am completely capable of this hack because he didn't. he did not set a password.
You totally are.
He did not put a waiting room, and he gave people who joined the ability to share their screens
And to
Those are
take
3
over,
clicks.
right?
That's
to take over the screen.
yeah,
Just to
yeah. You can set where they cannot screen share, and that's pretty
So-
simple.
This is a real problem with all of these organizations as a response to the COVID pandemic have jumped to online. Now you're having court trials that are happening via Zoom, which people wouldn't have even conceived of a year ago. And they're just not deploying it securely. And they end up in situations like this where the trial actually had to be postponed. So now it's tampered with the processes of justice, which honestly is kind of a worst case scenario for them. So, Sam, for you guys, have you had people reaching out for help with setting up this kind of online stuff, or does this fall back to the incident response? They go online, they get hacked, and then they come to you?
Well, it would be more of a post-incident event, but I gotta say that we haven't had any Zoom bombing matters. I think it's just one of those things, like you say, where it's like, look, there's a way to configure the platform, and you just need to be smart about it and set it up right. And that doesn't necessarily require a team of seasoned incident responders to help.
I think I'm going to
got
disagree. 'Cause you said you got to be smart about it, and the whole plan just fell apart. Right there.
Yeah, I was like, it's a bunch of lawyers.
We're talking about Tampa, Florida.
In addition to this was the court hearing for a previous
Twitter hack.
something that
This is the
right?
Twitter hack we
that we
talked about.
covered.
These are the guys, the one in Tampa, the one in Orlando, and I think the one over in the UK.
Yeah.
They got into Elon Musk, Joe Biden, Barack Obama,
And,
all those
and they
accounts.
did pick an interesting type of pornography to share on the screen.
Yeah, bass eating. That
We'll
was
put
weird.
a link to that in the. In
You
the
got a
YouTube
fish and this
description
attractive lady.
But
and a grill.
Weird.
well, what's crazy too to me, I made the mistake of watching the video that's in the Vice article.
Oh, you did?
Of the, which is it's just a screen grab of the Zoom meeting, and so you got people jumping in yelling about Bitcoin and things, and then it goes to the adult section, which is
The
fun.
adult.
But what's crazy is you hear the judge going, "Sorry, I'm trying to remove them as quick as they come in." So the judge, he cannot be focusing on what is being
He's like,
said in this
guilty,
case.
whatever.
He's like, hold on, I'm getting this guy out of here for doing
Wait,
this.
are we opening up a new career field? This is like the e-bailiff, right? So like the
The
bailiff would
e-bailiff,
take,
yeah.
if you were disrupting the courtroom, the bailiff would take you out. So now we need cybersecurity e-bailiffs.
I'm thinking Bull from Night Court.
Yeah.
And so we
Ross.
put you in a
it.
breakout room and pipe pornography to you and don't let you turn it off.
Yeah, they need like a honeypot meeting that they set up.
Yeah.
That they just let things run wild,
Yeah.
and then they jump into the other real
I think that's
Zoom
called
meeting.
Reddit.
Now, they did actually have an interesting argument. In Florida, we have the Sunshine Law and freedom of information and all of that. So court trials are open to the public. And if you have a Zoom room and close it off, like with a password, it's not open to the public anymore. So even when they assign a password, they still distribute the password to the press and to anybody who asks for it. So if somebody wants to Zoom bomb, they just ask for the password. So I don't know how they're going to solve this. I think they're going to have to not have the trial via Zoom, but we'll see what they come up with.
So I will tell you, I was standing near someone who had to attend a traffic case via
Was it
Zoom.
your
yeah,
attorney?
it was here. And it was
Next time was an interface.
yeah, and I tell you, not only did they not know how to do, all the other participants did not know how to mute their microphone. There were like children yelling and stuff, and he's like, so you were going 55, and what is going on over there? Yeah.
Are you calling in from your car?
Yeah, it was.
fast?
Yeah,
you doing now?
that sounds very much like my son's 4-year-old classroom.
Oh,
Yeah.
They're doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's all teachers are doing now. It's just saying, John, mute your mic. John, that's you. We can see you. Yeah, that's
Maybe a little
That's the
verbal
problem.
abuse to straighten him out.
and for the court.
We'll
or
let the
for-
moron mute his mic real quick.
Yeah, that's how you lose your teacher license.
Just to clarify,
Listen, I got a non-essential, isn't it? I don't know. I work here.
would this guy sharing the Pornhub video, would he be guilty of?
I don't think that's fair use.
No, what's
Public
the word I'm using?
obscenity.
The court.
Oh, you mean for copyright or for obscenity?
No, for like disrupting a court hearing.
Oh, contempt of
Contempt
court?
of court. Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
probably.
I think that
would
would be
so.
hard pressed to, like, if there were kids and stuff. Like, how do they employ it? Because that was something I was thinking of when I heard these, like, children yelling in the background over during the other court cases. It's like, do you give them a warning? And then you say, well, now you're...
Prison.
Well, I think that brings up Don's e-bailiff idea, right? That they're sitting there with the ability to mute microphones and the whole 9 yards. That's what we need. There's
like
the
it.
solution. Good job, Don.
There we go. Remote electric charge.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put my name out there for that.
You get malware if you don't mute your microphone.
All right, Sam. Well, thanks so much for your help on all those stories. But how do people find out a little bit more about the Crypsis Group if they want to engage with you guys, possibly?
Yeah, sure. Crypsisgroup.com on the great wide internet is probably the easiest way. Or follow us, check us out on LinkedIn. I think it's just /Crypsis Group. Probably 2 quick ways there.
Cool. You guys got anything coming up in terms of events or announcements? Anything you want to share?
A lot's changed in these COVID times.
That,
we used to do a lot more, at the black hats and things like that. But we nothing big on the horizon in those in that respect. We do have our heads down, just fighting cybercrime. That's our job every day. So keeps us busy.
All right. Well, thank you again for taking the time with us today. I know it's your lunch hour over there in LA. So.
And everybody out there, remember, it's kind of better to reach out to people like the Crypsis Group prior to getting an incident, but you can always do it after an incident if necessary.
You are allowed to pregame incidents.
It probably costs more after the incident. So. Right? I would assume.
That would make sense.
And when in doubt, just download a bunch of Chrome extensions.
Y'all waited. Now that's going to cost you.
All right. Well, Sam, thanks for taking the time with us today. And thank you, everybody, for watching. But stay tuned. Like I said, we've got more Technado coming up right after this break. So stick around.
This is Josh. Josh spent $2,500 on a week of classroom training for CompTIA A+ and got certified. Josh got a good job that pays $40,000 per year. This is Jeremy. Jeremy only spent $299 on a full year of training from IT Pro TV, including A+ and 300 other courses. Jeremy also got a great job that pays $40,000 per year. Jeremy used the more than $2,200 he saved in IT training for a fabulous tropical vacation. Now, Jeremy is still using his IT Pro TV membership to study for Network Plus and Security Plus to advance his career, but not spending any more money, since all three are included in his IT Pro TV membership, plus 300 more courses. Don't be like Josh. Choose IT Pro TV for your IT training.
All right, welcome back to Technado with Don Pizette, and we are now joined by John Prisco. John, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, and you guys survived the storm up there last week?
Yeah, 109 mile per hour gusts. So that pretty much knocked the power out for a very wide swath of land.
Yeah, that'll do it. I'm glad that we did reschedule for this week then, because otherwise it just would have been you on your phone trying to talk to us. So John is the president and CEO of Quantum Xchange, and actually has been on Technado before in the past, and that's about a little over a year ago. So let's get to know John again with our first segment and rapid fire questions.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right, John, this is a 5-minute rapid-fire question segment. It's going to take 45 seconds to a minute to answer each question. If you go over that time, Peter's going to buzz you, and then we're going to move on. Peter's going to take our first question.
All right, John, so for the people that didn't hear the last time you were on, can you give us a little bit of elevator pitch about Quantum Xchange, what you guys are all about?
Sure. So Quantum Xchange is the first commercial QKD service in the U.S. QKD is quantum key distribution. And what we're doing is we're making encryption key exchanges safe in a world where quantum computers are going to be able to break today's standard classical encryption keys.
Now, John, it's been a little over a year around about there since you've been on Technado. What's been going on at Quantum Xchange? Any new, fascinating, or mind-blowing type things that I need to get my helmet for?
Well, quite a lot's happened. We've deployed about 1,000 kilometers of optical fiber connecting New York to Boston and DC. And more importantly, we've solved the two main problems with quantum key distribution. And that's the distance problem, meaning keys are usually limited to only about 100 kilometers of distance, and the networking problem, meaning QKD is primarily a point-to-point type transmission scheme, and we have created a mesh networking capability. And we did this by inventing the first appliance that marries the QKD or physics approach to encryption with the math approach of post-quantum cryptographic algorithms that's championed by NIST. And we can certainly talk about that a little more later.
Now, I know when we talked last time, we discussed how it was really designed around these point-to-point links where you'd connect two major locations. But right now, thanks to the pandemic, we've got a lot of people that are working from home, so they're not going to be at those various points. How has that impacted you guys? Are people having to change the way they work to make sure they're still using the secure lines?
Well, we could foresee the need for a better networking approach. And about a year ago, we began designing this FIO TX, or Trusted Exchange. And FIO is a trademark name, PH for photon, IO for 1 and 0. So what we found with the pandemic is that some very secure organizations have been looking for a foolproof approach to guarding their transmissions. So we've had a lot of interest in our ability to use this FIO TX device to essentially create a hub spoke arrangement and be able to use not only optical fiber, but wireless communication, copper, satellite. Any transmission medium can be used with this appliance.
Now, I know that you initially focused your service in the financial industries as well as government near your offices in Maryland. Have you seen any growth in other areas since last we spoke?
Yeah, I think perhaps the most interesting growth area has been the fact that our products and services are ideally suited for 5G networks. And we were very fortunate to serve one of the largest telecom companies in the world, and we protected one of their early deployments of 5G. And we're now preparing to use our FIO Trusted Exchange appliance to connect Boston and London. So, being able to transmit these keys across the ocean, you could either use a submarine cable, but that would be difficult considering the distance limitations of the QKD, or you could do what the Chinese did with satellites and bounce free space lasers off of the satellite. But our FIO-TX doesn't require a satellite to be launched into low Earth orbit, and it doesn't require smog-free Beijing. It doesn't require no rain. So we're really excited about that.
Now, this isn't one of our official rapid fire questions. I just want to slip this one in. You mentioned that you've done a lot of work with the 5G providers. We actually reported on a story a couple of weeks ago about how 5G antennas are being used for a number of different things, including wasn't it that they spread COVID-19 and the government was controlling people's minds with them? So do you have anything to report on that front?
I hope not.
Yeah, there's lasers now.
The 5G conspiracy theories are through the roof right now.
He said 5G and quantum. I think it's on. It's just.
Yeah.
I think I work for them now. I think it's
How are you getting around those issues of distance? Because you said you've got some technology to be able to do that. I was reading an article about trying to do a transatlantic thing in the past, and you're talking about repeaters, or what's the process you guys are using?
Well, there really are no true quantum repeaters yet. They're probably on the same development track as quantum computers, although, they're not going to require as many qubits as a quantum computer. But the way we're doing it is we are generating key material with an optical quantum random number generator. So the key material has the highest entropy possible. We're then transmitting those keys out of band, meaning not in the same band as the data. Today, when people encrypt a data stream, they put the key right in that data stream. So it makes it nice and neat and easy for people to harvest the data stream along with the key. And even if they can't break that key today, they can store the information. And then when they have a quantum computer of sufficient capacity, they can then break that key. But what we do is we take the key completely out of the transmission path of the data, and then we create this hive of nodes where you have an appliance. Let's say you've got an enterprise customer with 50 locations. Now just think of a constellation of 50 of these appliances and the relationship between each one of those data links and each encryption key. Well, it becomes pretty close to a zero probability that somebody's going to be able to synchronize both temporally and spatially the encryption key with the data. So that's what we're doing. You know, we're taking advantage of the confusion that's created when you have lots of nodes, and the fact that you're not putting the key with the data that it has encrypted.
For some reason, all I can think of is a snow globe. You just
Exactly.
shake it up and there's like two flakes that are related, and you're like, which one is it? I don't know.
Would that be a reliable source of entropy? I don't think it would.
No, not a reliable source of entropy. I'm talking about like some way to like model or provide a thought process, because he was like temporally and spatially, and I was like, oh yeah, spread that over there, and so, and then for some reason I just imagine him grabbing the world and then shaking it.
That's exactly the process that they use.
Yeah.
Well, we actually have some other news related to quantum technology, and we actually saved it to talk to John about. It's the big news this week.
And now, the news.
So it's actually the news from last week, but we did save it because of the hurricane, so just bear with us on that one. But this is actually from website repub.li. The U.S. Department of Energy releases a blueprint for a domestic quantum internet. So I understand now, you know, quantum computing a little bit, and you know what you're doing in terms of the keys, but what exactly is a quantum internet? Does that just mean it's running over fiber, or what are we talking about here?
Well, you know, I think this announcement was particularly interesting because it underscores a more fundamental issue that I'd also like to talk about, but let me address this directly. So, you know, the Quantum Information Act set aside funding now for 2 years for 3 agencies, the NSF, National Science Foundation, for funding university research, the Department of Energy because of critical infrastructure, and the Department of Commerce, which NIST is a part of. So, you know, the Department of Energy comes out with this recommended blueprint, which is all physics-based. You know, it's optical fiber, it's quantum repeaters. And, you know, to have a true quantum internet, you have to have a quantum repeater that is able to boost the optical signals without changing the, you know, the actual state of the photons. And that's tough to do. That's the primary mechanism that protects you from someone trying to steal your key when it's a quantum key. But if you're using, you know, sort of a small quantum computer, which is what a quantum repeater is, you have the ability to do that. So, Department of Energy envisions a world where physics will dominate the quantum space, and Department of Commerce, NIST specifically, envisions a world where mathematical algorithms will be the standard. And, you know, for many years now, 45 years, Department of Commerce and NIST have come up with standards that we've used successfully. But, you know, the game is changing, and it's going to be harder to fight quantum computers. And I like the saying, fight quantum with quantum. And that's why I believe having a physics approach like the one espoused by Department of Energy for their blueprint makes a lot of sense. But there's something even more fundamental about this, and that is if you go back into the early 2000s, when we were graduating from antivirus as the only cybersecurity product, we started to define what was called a defense in depth strategy. it was recognizing that not one technology could protect you completely, and that it was wise to have multiple technologies protecting you, but multiple technologies that failed in different ways. So, that's why the idea of having a physics and a mathematics approach that's married together makes a lot of sense, because the failure mechanisms will be completely different for a post-quantum cryptographic mathematical algorithm and for a quantum key type approach.
All right, now I kind of wonder, and let me get your opinion because you are uniquely positioned to know this answer. The word quantum is getting thrown around these days as part science and part marketing jargon. And so, we hear it used in a lot of places where it's probably not appropriate. So when I see articles like these, one of the reasons I wanted to hold this article for when you were on the show is it's hard for me to gauge how realistic this is. So, what they're proposing, potentially creating a quantum internet, what's the reality of that? Is that something that we would likely see in the next 5 years, or is this 10 years out, or is it strictly theoretical and we can't even come up with a time frame?
Well, I think it's on the same time horizon as building a quantum computer that's capable of breaking a large mathematical quantum key. So I think it's more in line with a 3 to 5 year time frame. And let's face it, the infrastructure that's time consuming to deploy is the fiber. And what we have in the United States is plenty of dark fiber. We're using 1,000 kilometers of it right now. So, this is looking at somebody like a Cisco or a Juniper or a Fortinet that can suddenly make a quantum router or a quantum firewall. And then, the history of building the internet goes back to those days where Cisco was deploying routers everywhere. So, being able to realize a quantum internet is not so far-fetched. And I don't think it's anywhere near 10 years in the future. I think we're way ahead in terms of where people thought we would be, even with the pandemic. So, I think that their blueprint is potentially workable. It may need modification, but I do think you can expect to see that within the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, speaking of being way ahead, like you said, you guys have made some big advancements recently, and so there may be more people that want to find out about Quantum Xchange. So what's the best way for them to reach out and get a hold of you?
Well, I would say looking at our website, which is quantumxc.com, and we're pretty active in social media, on LinkedIn, and we have usually something every week that is in the news that we comment on. So I would recommend those avenues.
Perfect. And is there anything else coming up for you guys? I know a lot of people are doing virtual events and things like that, but anything on the horizon for you right now?
Well, I think we're in the midst of writing a white paper on 5G systems and how to protect them. So we'll be exposing that on our website soon. And, just keep in touch with what's happening in the news in the world of quantum and quantum safety. One of the big things we're trying to overcome is quantum literacy. And the more we can help educate, the better.
Yeah, that's what Don was saying, that there's confusion about what is quantum and what isn't quantum, and I'm sorry as a marketer for being partially responsible for that.
Quantum illiteracy.
I will say we're overcoming quantum literacy. That seems like a pretty tall order. I'm not going to lie. I feel like that internet's going to come online before you figure that out.
Shoot for the stars, Justin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Well, you are officially our quantum guy, John, so next time there is big quantum news, we will definitely reach out to you. But you got to put that direct line down to us here in Florida if you could.
And he may be here and he may not.
Well, we hope to expand nationwide, so we'll look forward to seeing you in a year or so.
Perfect. Coming soon. Hey, we want to let you guys know about some other stuff coming soon also from IT Pro TV. We've actually got a webinar coming up about the top 5 DevOps myths destroyed, and Justin's going to be doing that with Joe Peacock on Thursday, August 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to head over to itpro.tv/webinars, you can find the all the information about registering for that. You can also see all of our past ones. We just did one Don did last week about 3 things you need to know before starting your own IT business with Tom Lawrence, and all the other archived webinars that are over there at itpro.tv/webinars. And also, when you're online, head over to go.itpro.tv/Technado. You can get a 30% off coupon code for your personal account. You can also get a 7-day free trial. You can find out about the business plans as well and request a demo to see all the cool things that are available to businesses. That's available at go.itpro.tv/Technado. All right, John. Well, thank you again for taking the time to join us today, and I'm glad you guys were able to weather the storm last week.
Well, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too, and thank you to the crew in here locally. We had a lot of great stories today, so appreciate your insights as well, guys. Thank you, and thank all of you for watching, and we will see you next week right here on Technado with Don Pizzette. Bye bye.